Hi everyone, this is Raina again with Autism Services for Teens and Young Adults. Today we are going to be talking about something we've mentioned many times but haven't really done a deep dive on, which is how to request ADA accommodations for a job interview. So, if you're a teen or a young adult looking for a job, you're on the autism spectrum, or you are a parent of someone who is autistic, then this video is for you. We're going to talk about how to request reasonable accommodations and what that means, where to get ideas, and how to phrase those questions for interviewers. So, let's get started, but before we get into it, just wanted to introduce us. We are Autism Services for Teens and Young Adults. We are certified occupational therapists, and our job is to help create personalized solutions for autistic teens and young adults, and our goal is to help people live more independent lives and achieve their goals. We have training in neurodiversity and adaptations, and we can work with you to create a customized plan to help you reach your goals or your child's goals. If you are interested in learning more about our services, please contact us or go to our website, which will be linked down below. Okay, so let's get into it. What is a reasonable accommodation? It is one of your legal rights under the Americans with Disabilities Act. If you have a diagnosis of autism, that means that you legally are required to have equal access, just as much as everybody else, to the job application process, to be able to perform job functions, and equality in your work environment. So what all of that means is that basically you should not and cannot legally be discriminated against in a workplace setting because of your diagnosis of autism. That's all that means. A reasonable accommodation means that you are legally allowed to have access to accommodations or changes, adaptations in the job search process and the job itself, but they must be reasonable. Reasonable means that they're not too expensive, disruptive, or difficult for the employer to implement for you. So something that's unreasonable is going to cause a big inconvenience. Like, let's say you really want, an extra wing of the office building built just for you. That's not reasonable. They're not going to build a whole extra separate building just for you to have it exactly how you want. But a reasonable accommodation is something that they can do easily and cheaply. It's not going to cause a big disruption. So, an example of reasonable accommodations. A quiet room instead of being in the middle of everything. Written questions instead of spoken questions. Extra time to process the question before you have to answer. Or an alternate communication method, which means maybe you can type out your answers instead of saying them. Those are all examples of reasonable accommodations. They're not hard to implement. There is a great website called the Job Accommodation Network, or JAN for short, JAN. So I would really, really encourage you, if you're interested in learning more, to go to askjan.com, askjan.org. So that's askjan.org. This is a free government-funded resource, And it has so many good examples of what reasonable accommodations are. So you can look specifically at the autism section, and they can give you ideas of what accommodations you might be able to ask for. Some things you might not even think of, like, oh, I didn't even know I could ask for that, but other people have done it. Some examples of things specifically for autistic people that they can provide are sensory adaptations, communication methods, and just help with executive functioning, like extra like planners or scheduling alerts or things like that to keep you on track if that is difficult for you. Other ideas of things from the Job Accommodation Network. If you have anxiety during an in-person interview, you can request a virtual interview. That might make it a lot less intimidating. If you have difficulty remembering the answers to your interview questions, you can bring your resume and interview notes to reference during an interview. You can ask for the questions beforehand and write down bullet points of what you want to talk about. So when they do ask you those things, you're already ready to go. If you have trouble with verbal communication, you can request written questions or extra time to answer the questions. Some companies have a really, really long multi-hour interview. If that is the case, you can ask to break the interview up over a few days if you find yourself feeling like that is going to be way too intense for you. You can also contact JAN, the Job Accommodation Network, directly for personalized support. So they have a number that you can call and talk to somebody about your specific question, and someone will be able to help you through that. So it's really, really cool. So just to summarize, a reasonable accommodation doesn't mean you need extra technology. They don't need to go out and buy you something. Nothing fancy. It's just simple changes to the established process. You can also ask your family or friends for ideas about how you could be more successful or what accommodations might be helpful for you. Sometimes you don't know what would be helpful because maybe you haven't done a lot of interviews, or maybe you don't know where you could be doing better. But sometimes your family and friends can see things that you can't see. So you could just ask them if they have any ideas. They might have something helpful for you. So another thing that we need to talk about with the ADA, or the Americans with Disabilities Act, is that you never need to disclose your diagnosis if you don't want to. You are not ever legally required to say that if you don't want to say it. But in order to get an accommodation, you will most likely have to share something about why you need that. So they want to know, why do you have to do this differently than we normally do it? So there are 3 levels of disclosure. 1 is no disclosure at all. You don't tell them anything, but that also means you will not get accommodations. They have a way of doing their interview that everybody else does, and if you don't tell them why you need to change it, they're not going to change it for you, most likely. There's a second type of disclosure called functional disclosure. This means that you are talking about what you need without naming the autism diagnosis or the autism part of your application. So an example, you can say, I process a lot better with written language instead of verbal language. Can you send me the questions for the interview written out beforehand? That's an example. I never said anything about autism. I just said I process better this way. Another example. When I'm first getting to know new people, I get nervous. Can I request a virtual interview as a reasonable accommodation so that I can perform my best? Again, I never said anything about autism. I just said, this is what helps me do my best. Can you provide me this accommodation? Another example. I would like to request a reasonable accommodation for the interview. I sometimes have difficulty with short-term memory, so having the questions in writing would really help me stay focused and give more complete answers. Boom. 3 examples. I did not say anything about autism. I just asked for what I needed and told them why, because it would help me do better and I process this thing better, whatever. That's functional disclosure. Number 3 is full disclosure. So you can name the diagnosis and then explain how it's connected to you. So you can tell them, for example, I want to let you know that I'm on the autism spectrum, and sometimes I need extra time to process verbal information. As a reasonable accommodation, would it be possible to get the interview questions in writing ahead of time? That would really help me show you my best thinking. That's an example of you're telling them what you need and how it would help you, but you're also telling them that you have autism and that's why you need that accommodation. You might be thinking, well, why do I even need to tell them about my autism if I could do it the second way and just ask for what I need and not talk about autism? Well, that's a great question. Again, it's totally up to you, but some reasons why people do disclose their autism is that they feel like it helps build trust and understanding. It helps give the employer more context, and it can help them understand what you need and why you're asking for that accommodation. If you just say like, hey, this helps me do my best, they might be thinking, well, okay, but a lot of things could help other people, but we don't give them everything they want. Why do you need this specific thing? So sometimes it helps people be a little more understanding, like, oh, okay, you need, a little extra help to do certain things. Okay. You can also do the full disclosure because it just helps employers understand neurodivergence a little bit better. A lot of people don't know anything about autism. I think that's starting to change, but maybe they don't know anybody who is on the autism spectrum. And so you could tell them, I'm autistic, but they won't understand what that means or why you need that. So you could, just explain, like, I'm autistic, this is what it means for me, and this is what I need to be successful. And that can just help kind of paint a clearer picture of who you are, and it helps the employer know that you know yourself and that you are capable of advocating for yourself and planning ahead and communicating, and those are all great skills that employers would probably love for you to have. Another reason is sometimes when people have behaviors that the employer doesn't expect, like if the person is not making eye contact, for example, if you're looking over here and I'm supposed to be, making eye contact with the person here, the employer might think, oh, this person is not listening to me, or I can't tell what they're thinking. It might be confusing for them. So again, communicating can really help kind of clear up any miscommunications that would happen. It can also help reduce bias and create a more supportive environment. When people understand, they can just kind of feel more relaxed and feel like, oh, okay, I get what's going on now. This person is, they're not ignoring me. This is like something that is helpful for them. And that can help clear up a lot of confusion as well. It can help set the stage for future accommodations if you are hired there. Asking for accommodations up front can kind of help the employer know, like, okay, this is something that we might have to continue doing in the future, and keeps that door open. And it is really empowering for some people. Some people really feel like when they can feel confident and ask for what they need and name their diagnosis, they feel a lot better about themselves. Like, it's not something they have to hide. It feels like self-acceptance and honesty. However, it's still a choice. Just want to reiterate that. Just wanted to give you some reasons why people disclose and some things you might not have considered before, but it is still a choice. So you are not legally required to disclose a diagnosis ever. Even if you ask for accommodations, they can say, okay, but why do you need that? And you're still not required to tell them that you need accommodations. You never, ever have to tell anybody about your medical history or your diagnosis, anything. Full disclosure is just one option among many, and it's about what makes you feel the most supported and comfortable. So let's talk about when you might do this. You could do this during the application process. So some of the applications online or on a form that you fill out will ask if you have any accommodations, or if you have a disability and you need accommodations, you can disclose that and write down the accommodations that you need right there in the application. Or you can wait until you've been invited to do an interview and then ask. So you can, if they call you, you can have something written down ready to go so you know what to say. So let's say you've applied for a bunch of jobs. You're waiting to hear back from somebody. While you're waiting to hear back on these job applications, write down on a little card what you're going to say to the interviewer or the person from the company. So you could say, when they call you, they say, hey, we saw your application. We'd love to interview you. Are you available next week? You say, oh, sure, I can do this day. I'm really looking forward to the interview. I would like to request a reasonable accommodation to help me perform my best. Would it be possible to have the questions shared with me in writing ahead of time? And that is what you can write on the card. Exactly what you're going to say so that you don't get tripped up and flustered and then you miss your chance to ask. A lot of people email to schedule interviews, and then even easier to ask for accommodations because you don't have to write the little card. You can just email back saying, yes, I would love to interview, or I'd love to speak with you more this day, and then you can politely ask for the accommodation at that time as well. Another example of how to ask is saying, I just wanted to ask if it's okay to request a reasonable accommodation. I do better with fewer distractions. Would it be possible to do the interview in a quieter space or virtually? And just see what they say. Just focus on what you need, how it helps you, and keep it short. You don't need to go into your whole life story about why you need it or anything. Another example, Thank you for the interview invite. I'd like to request an accommodation that helps me perform at my best. I work better with written questions and a quiet space. Would it be possible to do the interview in writing or in a quieter room? So those are just some examples of many, many out there about how to ask for accommodations. But it's always really important to remember that you personally have the right to request what helps you succeed. You also have the right to not disclose anything about your diagnosis or about autism or anything like that. The last most important point, maybe I could say, is that you should really check out the Job Accommodation Network. That is your friend. It's going to help you. If you are a parent, please support your teen in understanding their needs, what accommodations might help them, and help them practice how to ask for those things and advocate for themselves. If you are a teen or young adult looking for a job, please just go easy on yourself. Start small. Remember to ask early instead of, 6 months, a year into your job, you are drowning. It's much easier to start early and ask when you are just starting this job for help. And you're allowed to ask. Please do not feel like you're burdening anybody or they're going to think you're weird. Please ask for what you need, because that shows that you are confident, and it shows that you know what you need to do to succeed at the job, and that's what they want to see. So, I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much for watching. If you want more resources, please visit our website. It's going to be linked in the description, I think, down below. If you want more practice with these things or have more questions or you'd like to work with us, please contact us. We offer coaching and consultations. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.